Alright, here's a number so big it kind of breaks your brain. $39 trillion. That's how much money the United States government currently owes. And by around September of this year, it's expected to cross 40 trillion. 40 trillion. With a T. Now, most people hear a number like that, shrug, and go, okay, that's a government problem, not mine. And that is exactly the mistake. Because this debt touches your rent, your groceries, your paycheck, and the value of every dollar in your wallet, whether you ever think about it or not. So let's actually decode it. Calmly. No politics, no doom. What is this 39 trillion, how did it get so insane, who do we even owe all this money to, and, the part that matters most, what it actually means for you and your money. Stick with me, because by the end this giant scary number is gonna make a lot more sense. Let's go. First, let's make this real, because trillion is just a word until you feel it. A million seconds is about 11 days. Sounds fine. A billion seconds? 31 years. And a trillion seconds? Almost 32,000 years. That's the jump we're talking about, and the US owes 39 of those. Here's another way to feel it. Split that debt across every household in America, and it comes out to roughly $290,000 per household. That's like every family in the country quietly co-signing a second mortgage they never agreed to. And it's growing, fast. The debt goes up by around $8 billion a day. Not a year. A day. That's almost $95,000 every single second. In the time it took me to say this sentence, the country went a few $1 million deeper. So no, this isn't some slow, far-off problem. It's moving in real time, right now, while we talk. Okay, so who is the US actually in debt to? Because there's this popular idea that we basically owe all of it to China, and that they could call it in and own us tomorrow. That's mostly a myth. Here's the real picture. A big chunk of the debt, the government literally owes to itself, to funds like Social Security. Money it borrowed from one pocket to pay another. The rest, the part held by the public, is owned by a huge mix of people and institutions. And a lot of it is Americans. Your bank, your pension, your retirement fund, insurance companies, everyday investors, they all own pieces of it, in the form of US Treasury bonds. Foreign countries do own a slice, Japan actually holds more than China does, but it's a smaller part than people think. So it's less like we owe some rival everything, and more like the country is deep in debt to a giant crowd, including a lot of its own citizens. Which is comforting and kind of unsettling at the same time. Now here's the part that actually matters, and it's not really the size of the number itself. It's the interest. Just like a credit card, the US has to pay interest on all this borrowed money. And that bill has exploded. The country is now paying more than $1 trillion a year, just in interest. Let that land. That's not paying anything down. That's just the rent on the debt. And it recently got so big that the US now spends more on interest than it does on its entire military. Think about what that means. Every dollar going to interest is a dollar not going to roads, schools, healthcare, or back to you. It's the single fastest growing thing in the whole budget. And when a government owes this much, it really only has a few ways out, and none of them are painless. Raise taxes. Cut spending. Or quietly let inflation chip away at the value of the debt, which also chips away at the value of your money. And that last one. That's where this lands right on your kitchen table. So let's make it personal. How does 39 trillion in government debt actually reach into your life? 3 ways, mostly. First, inflation. One of the quietest ways to deal with a massive debt is to let the currency slowly lose value, so the debt shrinks in real terms. But that same force is exactly what makes your groceries and your rent creep up every year, and your paycheck feel like it buys less. Second, taxes. Somebody, eventually, has to service all this, and over the long run that pressure points toward higher taxes down the road. And third, your savings. If you're keeping all your money in cash, sitting still, inflation driven by all this is slowly eating it. So what do you actually do about it? You do the boring, powerful thing. You don't panic, and you don't try to time some collapse. You own assets that tend to rise with inflation instead of getting crushed by it, things like a simple, broad stock index fund over the long haul. In plain terms, don't just hold dollars, own things that grow. That's how a regular person stays ahead of a problem this big. So let's bring it all together. The US owes about $39 trillion, heading for 40, and it climbs by billions every single day. It's not mostly China, it's a giant crowd, including a lot of Americans. The real danger isn't the number, it's the trillion plus a year in interest that's crowding out everything else. And it reaches you through inflation, future taxes, and the slow squeeze on any cash just sitting still. Now, you can't fix the national debt. That's on Washington, and honestly, both sides have been kicking this can for decades. But you can protect yourself. Don't hold all your wealth in dollars that quietly lose value. Own a piece of the economy, stay invested for the long run, and let your money grow faster than it gets eaten. That's the move. If this finally made the debt make sense, and you want more of the big money stuff explained without the panic, subscribe to Money Decoded USA, real money help, no hype. Your money's been decoded. Now go put it to work.